The President. We'll resume. We'll continue with the debate on the report on the duty visit to study the experience of poverty alleviation in Taiwan and Japan. A point of order, President. I want a quorum count. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing, President. Now, before I start, I would like to appeal to Mr. Albert Chan and Mr. Chen Chi-chuen of People's Power not to keep on requesting quorum counts. In fact, there were 20 quorum counts yesterday, and this motion as well as the following motion are not controversial. So please do not keep on requesting quorum counts. All right. I thank Mr. K.K. Fung, President, for moving this motion. The Subcommittee on Poverty went on a duty visit to Taiwan and Japan, and the report contains the experience gained during the visit. In fact, yesterday I listened very carefully to what members had to say in relation to the experience of poverty alleviation in Taiwan and Japan. And I really want to say that I support policy reforms in Hong Kong. Concerning hawkers, individual operators, it seems that the government doesn't think that they are or they play an important role. I think the government should positively recognize their role and their contributions to society, and their policy should be formulated accordingly. We need to learn from the experience of Taiwan and Japan, no doubt. But I want to say that, in fact, in the mainland, concerning the individual operators, their role was recognized by Mr. Deng Xiaoping. And as a result, in the early days of opening up and reforms, there was a lot of progress made. So for these individual operators, before the opening up and reform of the mainland, that was regarded as a capitalist tail, so to speak, that needed to be cut and removed. And also at that time, in the mainland, there was an absence of a market economy. But now in the mainland, we have seen tremendous development in this regard. But then in Hong Kong, in relation to the hawkers, the markets, market store lessees, yesterday some members said that the government didn't have a policy on hawkers and market store lessees. In fact, there is a policy. It is just that it is not the right policy. Now, the government's policy is to try to phase out hawkers. This is the government's policy. In 1973, the then Urban Council decided that no more new hawker licenses would be issued, and hawkers would be driven into markets as far as possible. And then in the days of the two municipal councils, as there were elected members in the two councils, improvements were proposed to hawker policies in the MST committee. Members were able to fully recognize the contributions made by hawkers to the economy. But then the two municipal councils were abolished, and the work of the two MCs was taken up by the FEHD. In fact, in the last term and in this term, I, on several occasions in the FEH panel, suggested that a comprehensive hawker policy be formulated. And I was able to get the support of fellow colleagues. And 2 subcommittees have been set up under the panel. One subcommittee looks at hawker policies, the other one on market facilities. But then we can see that the government's mindset hasn't really changed. I think the government should also learn from the Taiwanese and Japanese experience. During a recent meeting, we asked the FEH a question, and it said it was concerned about food hygiene and environmental hygiene. We asked the LWB whether it knew how many jobs were created by the hawkers, and what the contribution of the hawkers to the economy was. And in fact, the Bureau said that that was not really its policy area. The Home Affairs Bureau said that it would consult the District Council on a need basis. And the Development Bureau said that it would only look at the town planning perspective. And so we can see that the government doesn't have the right policy to help the hawkers. And hawker control and management is the responsibility of several bureaus and departments. I hope that the government understands that in fact, hawkers play a very important role in our economy. And Mr. Zheng, I think you should bring such suggestions back to the government. And I think we need to have a number of bureaus putting their heads together to try to promote this aspect. Thank you. Mr. Albert Ho, thank you. So there was the duty visit to Taiwan and Japan, and I think this report of the delegation contains a lot of useful information for our reference. And I would like to raise 2 points. The first one relates to retirement protection. In Japan, there is consensus in society that retirement benefits are not welfare benefits. In fact, they are the legitimate rights of the citizens. And so both employers and employees must contribute to the universal retirement protection system. I think this is a very important point. In Japan, their population is rapidly aging. And so the government has to continuously set aside more and more money to meet the expenditure on pension payment. And in Hong Kong, we are very concerned about the lack of a universal retirement protection system here in Hong Kong. Over the years, many sectors and organizations in the community have been urging the administration to implement a universal retirement protection system. The administration has been asked to put forward options for the community's consideration. But then there has been repeated delay. Professor Nelson Chow's report has yet to be published, and we really don't know whether the administration is going to or has imposed a lot of constraints on Professor Nelson Chow in his study. And then it is proposed that a future fund be set up, but can this future fund really help us meet the government's expenditure on elderly services and welfare? I think this is not enough. We also need to take care of the healthcare needs of the elderly people. The second point I would like to make is that both Taiwan and Japan provide loans to those in need. So the loans are to help those people meet their expenses in respect of renovation, removal, healthcare expenses, education needs, and so on and so forth. So you can see that the governments in Taiwan and Japan do care for the disadvantaged groups. And I think in this regard, our suggestion of a low-income supplement is better than the idea of offering loans. But I understand that in fact concessions are also given to those who borrow money from the government, and so such loans may ultimately become some form of subsidy. So concerning the low-income family allowance or supplement, we think it can help some poor people, especially the low-income families. As we are aware, concerning working hours, there are two bands, 144 hours and 192 hours respectively. And then for 144 working hours, then the allowance is $600. And if the number of working hours is 192, then the allowance is $1,000. But then we've said a number of times that there are two main inadequacies under this system. Because for working families, of course, we need to implement this allowance system for them. But then the inadequacies are as follows. Now, firstly, no specific help is offered to the disabled. We have about 350,000 disabled persons over 15 years old, and about 86% cannot take part in economic activities. Only about 13.2% can work. And out of this percentage, 51% earn an amount at the median wage level, and the families concerned, in fact, to live below the poverty line. And so we need to be concerned about families with disabled persons and the chronically ill. And then there is another problem, and that is concerning 1P families. They will not be included in the system. So in fact, 1P families are all excluded from the system. This is very problematic. Poor 1P families do need assistance and support. And on the 17th of June, the Oxfam report mentioned a basic living expenses line for our reference. Thank you.
Mr. Chi-wai. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, the Subcommittee on Poverty paid a duty visit. You can see that the crux of the matter when it comes to alleviation of poverty is that we need to help the poor so that in the long run they have job opportunities, and then by securing a job, they can leave behind their poverty. Mr. Zhang, the Secretary, referred to a number of new initiatives like the low-income family support allowance. I think it is good, but still there are 2 points for the pondering by the Secretary. First of all, the design of the CSSA. For the disregarded income, I think for many years the level hasn't been adjusted. I just wonder whether it can be revised so that we can more effectively enable the recipients of CSSA to become self-reliant. And then for the disregarded income, I hope the Secretary will further consider the following. For anyone who has been relying on the CSSA for a long time and yet would like to become self-reliant, well, usually there is this worry that once you've left the safety net, and if you encounter difficulties and if you want to rejoin the scheme, you have to wait for a few months' time during which you undergo the vetting process. In other words, the recipients who are currently on the safety net are worried that they would have huge difficulties in the interim months when they receive nothing at all. I think we need to assure the recipients so that they are willing to leave the safety net when they're able to do so. So perhaps we should try to see how the difference between the assistance and his income can be saved for future with the assistance of the government rather than being deducted. In this way, they will be more willing to go to work, and they know in advance that the savings can be made use of during times of difficulty. The second point is that for many low-income families, they're not able to become self-reliant. This is because of the lack of community support. For single parents, they find it difficult to get adequate child care. And then for other families who have to take care of their elderly members, since they have to take care of an elderly member, they cannot go out to work in the absence of external help. Again, this presents as a very good opportunity to give jobs to people in the community. So if we start thinking along this line, it means that on the one hand, you would like to see the elderly aging in place, aging in the community, and we want to provide tutorial service in the community. So there will be job opportunities within such a community economy. And then hawkers currently are subject to a lot of restrictions and control. Perhaps we should relax the restrictions, and then there will be more possibilities. And then we can gradually encourage the recipients of CSSA to find ways to become self-reliant. Unfortunately, the administration, including the SLW, would see it differently. Yes, I agree with the broad direction of launching the low-income working family allowance. But it appears that you don't have a lot of incentives in your policies. In particular, I think the CSSA system should have incentive elements so that you can encourage the recipients to leave the safety net. Probably the SLW would reject my statement. Say, for example, you will tell us that once every 2 weeks an able-bodied recipient has to attend a job interview. But then you would just turn it into a job interview for its own sake, rather than an opportunity to become self-reliant and to go back to the labor force with the assistance of the government. The two concepts would be very different. So SLW for those employable recipients of low-income working family allowance, please have an open mind, and then the recipients can find jobs in the community. We are having a second motion debate in a moment, and it's about lack of manpower. Currently, we are subject to many constraints, and there is a lack of incentives for the welfare recipients to go back to the labor force. So there is sort of labor being locked up unnecessarily. For long-term welfare recipients, as a result of staying away from the labor force, they find it difficult to go back to the labor market. So perhaps SLW, instead of giving cash directly to the recipients, please also make arrangements so that they become a carer, providing community service so that they can make a living. And I hope that through such an arrangement, they can accumulate work experience, and they will also be motivated to help others so as to become self-reliant. Thank you. Mr. Ho. Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't go on the duty visit of the Subcommittee on Poverty. However, when we talk about the Japanese pension scheme or system, I would like to address the issue from the point of view of women in poverty. In Japan, not too many women work, and in fact, they encounter many more barriers if they want to work when compared with their counterparts in Hong Kong. For us who visited Japan, you see receptionists receiving you at the doorsteps. You don't quite often see a man. So such jobs are usually taken up by women. And then for the pensions given to women, she will be sharing half of that for her husband. Say, for example, at the age of retirement, if the woman has never worked, then she will get half of the pension given to her husband. In one way, you may say that we give recognition to the value of the labor of a housewife to a homemaker, but there is a negative impact. Because if the relationship turns sour, and then as a result of this financial need, the wife will not want to get a divorce. This is because she would rather wait until half of the pension of the husband can be shared before she would proceed to a divorce. So sometimes the relationship has become very tense, and yet they have to put up with each other for many more years before they eventually break up. And I think this will become a strain on their mental well-being. Therefore, if we say that we want to learn from the Japanese model, then I have to say that our system should be better than theirs. But of course, in reality, in Hong Kong, women don't get to share half of the pension of the husband. And then for a single mother, it will be doubly difficult if she has to work to support the family. Now, we've been advocating a tripartite contributory system. We must have input from the government. This is because the contribution of the government will be channeled to the homemakers. Well, of course, we'll say that there are rich wives who don't need to work, and but then they are the minority. And then we have also got homemakers in the middle-class families. They do work for the family and yet their labor has never been given a value. So when we talk about universal pension systems, we must have a contribution from the government so that the retirement fund will have this additional source of resources. And then for the employers and the employees' shares, currently we have the MPF providing a protection. The committee has already said that perhaps a particular percentage should be taken out so that we can jointly share the responsibility so that we support the wives could stay at home and work hard throughout their lives. I think we need to give recognition to the value of the labor provided by the housewives. Now, for community nannies, it is $18 an hour. It is not even minimum wage, so it is just regarded as a compensation for travel expenses. We should change our mindset. Even if a woman is merely a homemaker or she works as a community nanny, the value of her labor should be given due recognition. But it is outrageous to see that from the admin's reply to the CEDAW's report on Hong Kong, we used to talk about equal pay for equal value or equal work. Ms. Anna Wu used to chair the EOC, and then usually we found that women received a lower pay than their counterparts. And the government was so shameless to give this reply to the UN Committee on CEDAW. The report was cited, but not the conclusions. It is said that we haven't got any problem for equal pay for equal value. But the conclusion of Ms. Anna Wu's report was not quoted. We still have this problem. Even the statistics from the Census and Statistics Department has told us that usually women would only get paid 80% of the wage rate of their male counterparts. In other words, at the end of the day, the retirement resources will be less favorable than men. So on the one hand, I hope that when the administration is to study universal retirement protection, we must consider having contribution from the government so as to pay for the retirement protection of the homemakers. The administration must also change its mindset that its homemakers are also contributing to the society, and the community nannies' wage rates should also be increased to that of the minimum wage rate. And we should also change our cultural value. We should have equal pay for equal value.
Mr. Frankie Yik, I'd like to call for a quorum count, please.
易志明議員。
The Honorable Frankie Yik, President. I could not find the time to take part in the delegation to Taiwan and Japan, but the Liberal Party always supports that we should provide appropriate financial support for people who are the needy in society, especially low-income families and the elderly. As the report says in the conclusion, in terms of culture and city characteristics, Hong Kong is not the same as Japan and Taiwan, so we cannot just copy the poverty alleviations of those two places to Hong Kong directly. However, the experiences in poverty alleviation policies and measures can definitely be learned by Hong Kong. We have a poor population of 1.02 million, and we have 573,000 who are the working poor. Actually, in 2008, the Liberal Party has already asked the administration to introduce a low-income working family subsidy, so more people would be encouraged to work. I would say that those who earn a household income at 50% of medium income should be able to get $5,000 every month. And as for leave, some organizations said that there are two tiers, and at tier 2, you have to work 208 hours every month before you can have the extra $400 or a total of $1,000 in subsidy. They think that the threshold is too high. They would like to lower the 208-hour work threshold, and the administration was responsive. In the latter half of May, the administration counter-proposed that the number of hours to be worked would be reduced from 208 to 192. Is it that 208 hours are too much? If you do a simple calculation, there are 365 days a week. You minus the 52 Sundays and also the 7 labor holidays and 11 public holidays. If you work 8.5 hours every day, then you would be working 24.5 hours every week, and it would not be too much. And in fact, the lever is to encourage people to work. The more you do, the more you will get. But now you lower it to 192, meaning you only have to work 7.8 hours every day. So more people will benefit. Well, we think it's something good. The Liberal Party also supports that the lever must be subject to income and asset tests, so you help the needy families instead of every family who comes along, and that would help us make sure that public money is well spent. In the final part of the report, it is said that the application procedure should be streamlined and there should not be any asset test. We have reservations about that. Indeed, we proposed a lever many years ago, but then at that time we did not have SMW. Now the situation has changed. SMW has provided basic income for grassroots people in order that resources would go to families which really need them. The administration should be careful in threshing out the details of lever. They should not be too lenient. If in the families there are also eligible children, then the family will also be able to get $800 for children in that family every month. We support that because it will help children to move or to have upward mobility. In 2011, in the population census, children in working poor families take up 68.9% of all children in Hong Kong, or a total of 190,000 people. Therefore, when resources are limited, you have to first of all help non-CSSA poor families, especially those with children in school and youngsters. So these families will not have such a big burden in bringing up their children, and this will help to solve the problem of intergenerational poverty. With regard to universal retirement, the Liberal Party thinks that there should be protection, but then the administration should take care of elderly people who cannot take care of themselves. However, we do not support any retirement protection that would ask the young generation to support the old generation, because that would mean that there would be a big burden on the old generation. We believe what is effective is for the same generation to support those who are poor and needy in the same generation. And there should also be an asset test so that there would not be a case of a small number of young people supporting a big number of old people. This will also be more sustainable. The delegation talks about promoting community economy, stimulating local consumption, and creating employment. We support that. The administration should look into it and also consult the stakeholders and improve the present schemes, including the Enhancing Self-Reliance Through District Partnership Program. Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Albert Chen, I have already spoken, but I would like to ask for a quorum count, please.
有冇議員要發言？
Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I will ask the Secretary for Food and or Labour and Welfare to speak.
President, I would like to thank Mr. K.K. Fung for moving the motion on the subcommittee's visit to Taiwan and Japan. A total of 14 members have spoken on this motion, and I would now like to give some response. Poverty alleviation is a top priority of this term of government. We attach great importance to poverty alleviation. We spare no efforts to take forward poverty alleviation work. I want to say that in terms of the strength of our efforts, the scope of our work, and the amount of resources we put in, I can say in all these respects, our efforts are unprecedented and for all to see. We have displayed commitment, determination, and courage. And I want to say that concerning our poverty alleviation policies, we are pragmatic, we are proactive, we need to involve all relevant sectors and parties, we are committed, and we are also innovative. When this term of government assumed office, we immediately launched the OALA, and over 420,000 elderly citizens benefit from this allowance. The Poverty Commission was also re-established. There is cooperation among the business sector, the community at large, and the government. And we are also making use of the CCF, and we are also taking forward poverty alleviation on all fronts. In an unprecedented manner, we formulated the first official poverty line. We've also formulated our policies on poverty alleviation, and we've also provided the necessary objective and scientific basis. We do not want to distort the labor market. At the same time, we want to reduce intergenerational poverty. We want to encourage the poor households to be self-reliant, and these are, in fact, our main policy considerations. The LIFA has been proposed, and children in these families will also be able to benefit. We expect that our total expenditure in this regard will exceed $3.1 billion a year, and over 200,000 members will benefit, and the number of beneficiaries will exceed 710,000, out of which 180,000 will be children and young people. So this is an innovative and important tool for poverty alleviation, and I really hope that FC can, before the summer recess, approve the funding application so that we can launch the allowance in the fourth quarter of next year. Employment is the pillar of people's livelihood. It's also the foundation for social harmony. This is also very important to help people get out of poverty. We have the low-income supplement. We have also got a number of other measures in place. For example, there is a new employment center in Yatong Estate in Tongchong, and we have other programs administered by the Labour Department, like the Work Orientation and Placement Scheme and the Employment Program for the Middle-Aged. So we want to help these groups upgrade their employment capability so that they will be able to find suitable jobs. And concerning youth employment, we have the YETP administered by the Labour Department, and the YETP is for young people who've left school and who are between 15 to 24 years old. This is a one-stop service for pre-employment and in-service training. And we want to encourage employers to hire these young people and provide them with in-service training. And that's why we've also got a supplement or an allowance for employers. And in the first quarter of this year, the Labour Department and employers and various organizations launched 3 pilot schemes. And we are trying to provide pre-service training, in-service training, and also internship for young people. Training is, of course, very important to nurture talents in Hong Kong. We have the Employees Retraining Board helping the various groups of retrainees, including young people, the middle-aged, as well as females who are interested in becoming domestic helpers. We also try to help new arrivals and ethnic minorities. So we hope that more labor we can have more people released to work in the community. And the SAR government has already obtained funding from LegCo, and $15 billion have been injected into the ERB. And in the 2014-2015, the ERB will provide 130,000 training places. In order to encourage cross-sector cooperation, we've already applied, or we intend to apply for funding from LegCo to inject $400 million into the Partnership Fund for the Disadvantaged. And about $200 million will be for occasional childcare and also after-school learning services for primary and secondary school students from grassroots families. Members have talked about the problems of poor elderly persons and retirement protection. Yes, we have about 1 million people, elderly citizens who are aged 65 or above, accounting for 14% of the total population. And this number will increase to 2.56 million in 2041, 30% of the total population. At the moment, we have the CSSA and also the OALA for elderly citizens. And there are 178,000 people who are 60 years old or above receiving CSSA, accounting for 45% of the total number of CSSA recipients. And we have the OAA as well as the OALA, and these can also offer support for non-CSSA elderly recipients. And concerning retirement protection, as I've already said, the Commission on Poverty has already commissioned a team led by Professor Nelson Chow to carry out a study based on the multi-pillar model advocated by the World Bank. In fact, members have mentioned the Holding Hands program and also the Child Development Fund account program. Now, this is a matching grant mode to help children in low-income families save up their educational expenses. In Hong Kong, we have the Child Development Fund. It was set up in 2008, and we have been helping these children from grassroots families nurture good saving habits. And we've also got mentorship programs for these children. These programs last for 3 years, and the mentors provide personal guidance for these children and share their experience with these children. And in fact, over 7,000 children from grassroots families have benefited from the scheme, and they include children from ethnic minority families, disabled children, and also children living in subdivided flats. And in 2014-2015 financial year, an extra $300 million have been earmarked for the sustainable development of the scheme, and an additional 10,000 children will benefit. And the members have also said that at the moment, people may need to go to different offices to apply for different assistance items. We are now studying the idea of a one-stop office. Mr. Albert Chan, I want a quorum count. As Secretary, please be seated.
局長，請你繼續。
主席，
Secretary, please continue. President, many members and also the subcommittee's report recommend that we should go for community vitalization in order to help deal with the poverty problem. I wish to point out that it's the responsibility of a number of departments and bureaus to promote the local community economy. Other departments will give their support. The Home Affairs Department has established a website called Hong Kong Fund in 18 districts to introduce the characteristics and scenic spots in different districts to members of the public and to tourists. And the district councils are also consulted on activities of district characteristics. And so if necessary, the district councils will be consulted. And we also have the Enhancing Self-Reliance through District Partnership Program. And as a result, the disadvantaged groups can have their capabilities upgraded. They will be able to become self-reliant, and they can better integrate into society. The program was established in 2006, and since then, a total of $170 million have been approved to subsidize the setting up of over 150 social enterprises, and a total of about 2,500 full-time and part-time job opportunities have been created as a result. In fact, the SAR government has been trying to find innovative ways to resolve the poverty problem in Hong Kong. Overseas experience tells us that social innovation is an effective way to respond to social problems. And as a result, $500 million have been secured from the Lotteries Fund to set up the Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Fund. The fund was set up in September 2013. Under the Commission on Poverty, there is a task force on social innovation and entrepreneurial development. And the task force is responsible for research, upgrading of capability, and the formulation of innovative plans. The task force hopes that through research into the best practices in other parts of the world, we can make reference to these and come up with our own social innovation programs. And concerning capacity upgrading, the objective is to set up an ecology conducive to social innovation. And in fact, the task force in the first quarter of this year openly invited the first batch of partnership organizations to be responsible for the design, management, and promotion of innovative and upgrading programs. And after the middle of 2014, we'll be inviting individual organizations to apply for funding for specific innovation projects. Mr. Chi-wai said that for CSSA recipients, the disregarded earnings should be relaxed in order to promote employment. In fact, the SWD through the CCF launched on the 1st of April a CSSA recipient employment incentive scheme. This is a 3-year trial scheme to try to encourage CSSA recipients to find work. So an NGO will record in the account the amount earned by this recipient in exceedance or in excess of the disregarded earnings, and this amount will become an incentive at a later stage when the amount has accumulated to 2 times the income limit for CSSA. So what's important is that these recipients can find work and can get into the habit of working. And up to now, 1,962 CSSA recipients have joined the pilot scheme, and we hope that participants can become self-reliant and can leave the CSSA net. Mr. Chi-wai has also said that we should promote community care. In fact, this is exactly what we are doing. I want to tell you briefly about 2 programs. First of all, we have the community nannies program, and as to whether we can strengthen this program, in fact, we've set aside extra funds in the budget. And in fact, we're going to strengthen the neighborhood support child care project. And for the target groups, the age ceiling will be increased from 6 to 9. And also, the organizations will be able to get more funding so that they can provide more community support for the community nannies. And then at the end of this month, we are going to launch the carers allowance. So, in fact, those caring for elderly persons will get the allowance. And this is a 2-year scheme, and we hope to benefit about 2,000 carers. So I think this is an innovative idea. We hope that we can really help or be able to help those in need. In fact, President, this term of government is committed to alleviating poverty. We are not trying to evade the problem. We hope that for young people, they can become self-reliant. And as for our social welfare system, and our social security system, it must be sustainable, and we should help those who cannot help themselves. In other words, it's a safety net. We will do our best to take forward our poverty alleviation work. But then the business sector, the community at large, NGOs should also pitch in. So let's join hands and put our wisdom together, and let's together establish a caring, integrated, and caring society. Thank you.
Honorable Frederick Fung, you may now reply, and you have 2 minutes 29 seconds. The debate will come to a close after Frederick Fung has replied. Thank you, President. This delegation to Taiwan and Japan has impressed me in 2 ways, and I think sparks have been sent because of the comparison with Hong Kong. I can see that people alleviate poverty, but then they put their heart into it as well. We must respect this. For example, we remember our respect for the elderly, even if that means working harder in order to provide a pension for the elderly. Number 2, they would provide help by allowing people to start their own business. I think Hong Kong has not done enough. You have got 2 funds for people to be innovative and start your business, but then both adding together will not give you 100 million every year. I think this is a joke. I can tell you that in South Korea, within 3 years, well, actually, they started social enterprises 1 year before we met them. They said that within 3 years, they would like to establish 10,000 social enterprises. I think they are really like a race car. In just 3 years, for us, we would spend 5 years to create just 150 social enterprises. We are not even a locomotive. I believe the administration really has to change your mindset and your values. When I say you alleviate poverty by creating an economy, I mean you start new industries, so you provide new jobs, maybe high-paying jobs as well, so youngsters will have hope. And also, you can start green industries. You can ask the old ladies and old men in estates to help collect waste for recycling. And also, Are there new industries, culture industries or IT for young people to work in? Can you also try to create a silver hair market? You can do a lot, but then you have first of all provide the platform. The Commission on Poverty will not go into such domains because they think that whatever has to do with finance and the economy only belong to the jurisdiction of the FS. I think the most important thing is for us to change our ideology. I now put the question to you, and that is that the motion moved by Honorable Frederick Fung be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Mr. Albert Chen claims a division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes.
開始表決。
Voting begins.
請各位核對表決。
Members, please check your votes. If there are no questions, voting is closed and the results are displayed. From FCs, 24 present, 24 for. From GCs, 20 present, 19 for, no abstentions, no one against. The questions agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present, I declare the motion passed. Third member's motion, ensuring the completion of public housing and infrastructure projects on